Hi everybody, hopefully you can hear us. Welcome to the first of Girls Alive, Skills Alive in 30 Sessions, which we're going to bring to you this evening. We have got Tracey with us. Give us a wave, Tracey, then everyone can see who you are. Down the bottom of my screen, hopefully down the bottom of your screen too. And then we have Alex as well, there in the middle. These are highly experienced and qualified ladies who are going to tell us all about OS maps, that's Ordnance Survey maps, this evening, and hopefully build your knowledge on that. And what we have is, because obviously we can't hear you, we have the chat box here. Hopefully you've got a chat box somewhere, however you're viewing this. If you want to post any questions in the chat box, and I'll moderate, I'll keep an eye on that while Tracey and Alex are talking, and I'll be able to either interject and ask a timely question, or I will save them up to the end, and then we'll go through a few questions at the end. So first of all, these ladies are very well qualified to be delivering this session this evening. Tracey in the past has been the champion, South African champion at regaining, which I have to say I didn't know what it was, but it's very long distance, 8 hours plus, orienteering. And she's also been the navigator for the All Ladies Adventure Racing team. So she knows a thing or two about OS maps and navigation. And then Alex has been an outdoor instructor for 15 years and is also a mountain leader. So I'm going to hand over to Tracey and Alex now. Away you go, ladies.
Right, good evening, everyone. I hope you all had a lovely start to your week. So let's just kick off nice and quick. So what is an OS map? You may have heard of it, may have seen them, may have kind of used them before, but essentially Ordnance Survey, which is what OS stands for, is the national mapping agency for Great Britain. And it's what we use to navigate when you're walking, doing any sort of outdoor activities. So essentially, why do we then want to learn about OS maps? I guess we want to help encourage you to feel a little bit more confident in, especially during lockdown, hoping that you can get out. So confidence planning your routes. If you feel a little bit worried about maybe getting lost, hopefully this will help you. Or if you maybe rely on your phones too much, if you lose signal or your batteries die, definitely happened to me before. Or if you just want to be adventurous and go out and find your new places, new routes, your local houses. Definitely, this lockdown has enabled me to explore a lot more around my house, which has been great. And generally, we want you to be more relaxed, have fun outdoors, and be safe. So, moving on to Tracey.
Yeah, so right now, obviously, you'll all be asking, where can I find an OS map? How do I get my hands on one of these? Well, there's a number of different ways in which you can do that. The simple old-fashioned way is to buy a paper map from Ordnance Survey. Now, you can either get it directly from them. Normally, I would say go down to the W.H. Smith on the high street. You'll be able to pick one up there, or some of our local supermarkets. They'll always stock the ones for your local area where you are. If you're not looking for a paper map, or if you can't get to a store or you don't want to order one right now, OS Digital App, they have a subscription that you can do through OS themselves on their website. And I know from doing the London Marathon with a number of different people that there's actually quite a lot of you already who do use these on your phones. So you can follow a route, excuse me, and they also have an opportunity for you to be able to explore and find other routes in your areas. So this is things and routes and walks and rides that other people have already mapped out, and they're available for you to have a look at. Both of these obviously cost money. You can actually also use Bing Maps, which is the Microsoft sort of mapping service, online for free. You can't map on there, but you can go and actually have a look at the map and see what you're looking for. So if you type in there, have a look in the top right-hand corner, you can select the kind of map that you're looking at. OS Maps is on there, and as you zoom in, so it will tell you and show you 2 different scales of maps that are available through OS. It's all over there. A number of you probably also use a number of these other facilities and providers that are out there. Trail Forks, usually for people out mountain biking, Komoot for just about anyone, All Trails, View Ranges. I think the list really goes on and on. So just so you know that all of these tend to use OSM, which is OpenStreetMap. And think of that like Wikipedia for maps. It's a user-generated content. That content is then validated and verified on the ground by people as well. So usually it's very trustworthy, but if you are using one of these, it's often worthwhile checking back against the Ordnance Survey to make sure that you've got permission to go wherever it says you can. So if you were going out to buy a paper map, you might say, which one do I need? I mentioned you can go to the high street and they'll have the ones for your area. And as you can see on these little maps on the right-hand side, it'll tell you where it is. And then there's a number in the top right-hand corner. So you can also get these from the Ordnance Survey shop itself. And I'm sure we can give you the link to that afterwards, or otherwise you can just type it into the internet. And I checked at the moment to see what their pricing is like over there. Now, the orange map that you see on that side is the Explorer map. It comes in 2 types, one which is very much a paper kind, which if you get caught out in the rain or snow, won't last very long. The other is an active one, and that's what I've looked at. And you can see it's £14.99 at the moment. The pink map is at a higher scale. So I think Alex will probably touch on sort of scale probably in a moment. The one is at 1 millimeters equals 25,000, which means things are easier. You normally use those for walking. The one to 50,000, so in other words, things look smaller on the map, twice by comparison to the other one. It's for if you're covering a much larger distance. So usually if you're biking or doing a very long distance trail, and requires a much higher level of ability to navigate when you're doing that. But down the bottom, there's another one that I use quite a lot to buy these maps when I do. Alex, you could probably say after this, if you have some places you tend to use as well, but Dash for it. Online, they always have specials on there, and you can see they're sort of, £4.50 cheaper at the moment. So if you can't get down to the high street, that's an option to use. Are there any other places you use as well, Alex?
No, they tend to be the only ones. What is also probably quite good is, I don't know if you live in Dorking, for example, or somewhere near Holmbury St Mary, where you might find that actually where you walk is split over 2 maps. You can actually go to Ordnance Survey and you can select an area for your specific area and map, and you can have that printed for you. Again, the price is very similar to those kind of prices. It's not much more expensive, I don't think, but it's very useful rather than having to carry 2 maps. You can just have a specific one for your area. But otherwise, now I would generally go to either one of those 2, or I use my phone because I have this subscription. Okay, so we want you to know is, where can you go for a walk, where can you go for a ride, and what is, I guess, our right of way. So we have 4 main rights of way in England. Okay, as you can see on the screen, they are the different rights of way. Okay, so if you've got a permissive right of way, it's always going to be green, which means you have a right to be on there. So the first one with the yellow arrow against it is a footpath. So essentially it means walkers only, okay? The second one, which is the blue tag, is your bridle way, which is open to horses and cyclists as well. Okay, and then the third one with the red tag is called a byway, and that's open to all traffic, so including motorised vehicles. So just be aware, definitely in the Surrey Hills, we have a few of those that crop up, and you can hear bikers racing past, or quad bikes. The colour-coded tags that you can see there are actually, I don't know whether you've seen them, hopefully you have, when you've been on footpaths, you have posts with arrows Okay, so the different colours signify what type of pathway you're on. Okay, so it will suggest if it's a byway, it will have a red arrow. If it's a footpath, a yellow arrow, and vice versa. Okay, so then the fourth one, okay, we've got is our byways. I've already said the byway. What's Tracy? Help me out. What's that fourth one? Is that just a? That's not a permissive path, is it? No.
No, those may just be, as you say, the byways are generally off-road, 4x4, scrambler, quad bikes, whereas the road used as a public path with the alternating little tag sticking out from it tends to be sort of random roads you might think may just be going down to a farm. To be honest, you don't often come across those on maps.
No, yeah, that's it. They're often routed from old actual like horse tracks and things like that. So you've then got those little diamond trails, which are your national trails. Often they are inscribed over your bridleways or footpaths. So you'll see the green dotted line with the diamonds. In Surrey Hills, we have a lot of them. So I'm sure you've heard of the North Downs Way, the South Downs Way, the Downs Link. They are all your national trails. So then heading on to the orange ones are our permitted footpaths and bridleways. So these are slightly different. Whereas all the green footpaths, you have a right of way beyond them at any point. The orange ones, the landowners are allowing access over their land for these. Okay, and there are slight differences. So with the permitted footpath, the landowner can choose to close off their footpaths or divert them if they so wish to do so. And they can also make restrictions. So they could maybe specify that it's open to horse riders, but not cyclists, or vice versa. So just be aware that if you plan a route that has got a permitted footpath, you may have to get to a point where actually it's closed or it's been diverted on a different route. And then the last one there, we've got off-road cycle routes. So you've got national cycle routes. Those are really good for our mountain bikers, especially if you're wanting to do long journeys, full day journeys or few day journeys. They're really good to follow. Fabulous. So here we have a 1 to 25,000 Explorer map. So that's the orange map that we showed you earlier. And as you can see in a nice local area, Leith Hill, that we've got here, you can see a variety of those different paths that we've just spoken about. Okay, so you've got your footpaths, you've got your bridleways, you've got your byways, and you've got your national trails there. Okay, you've also got two different colours. Okay, it's colours of green. Okay, and this is quite key. So both greens mean it's in a wooded area. However, the lighter green that's got a border, like an orange border around it, means that it's open access, which actually entitles you to go anywhere within that area, even if it's off the path. Okay, so what in England and Wales, you will have those designated on the maps, and they will be shown as they are here. Whereas the other shade of green, you can't just walk straight through the middle of it unless you're on a permitted footpath. However, if you're in Scotland, on their maps, they don't tend to have any permitted footpaths or any areas, open access areas, and that is because the whole of Scotland is open access. So you have a right in the whole of Scotland to walk wherever you like within reason. Right, so as you can see here, I don't know whether you can see very closely, but there are some blue grid lines that run top to bottom and east to west, north to south, east to west. And one of those grid lines, one of those grid squares is 1 kilometre. And generally that is how we would sort of time and do our distancing and as how long it would take. If I was walking with a big pack, I would probably walk somewhere in the region of 3 kilometres to 4 kilometres an hour. whereas normally without a pack or a day pack, I'd probably be walking 4 to 5 kilometers an hour. Yeah, so just making sure you're aware roughly that's the distance that you would cover if you're planning your routes. Okay, so the last little thing that I want to talk to you about is when you're out and you've got your map in front of you, how do you know which way is up? And one of those ways is why we carry a compass, is on your compass, your north needle, which is normally the red needle that spins around, that points to north, and the top of your map points to north. So if you point the top of your red needle on your compass to the top of your map, that will set your map for you. So what then is around you looks exactly the same as what's around you on your map, and vice versa. Anything you want to add to that, Tracey?
I think the only thing, you see me waggling my cursor around down over here, which is we've been saying you may lose signal, or you might not want to use your phone. Alex and I probably both quite like paper maps because they're both a challenge and really quite fun because you can see a much wider area when you're out there using it. But sometimes if you don't have your compass on you, or you don't have a compass, most smartphones will have a compass feature on it. So there's absolutely no reason why you can't use that on your map in order to face it in the correct direction, to face it on north of there. So if you have a paper map but you don't have a compass, you can still use your phone in order to make sure that you point it in the right direction. So for example, if you were off hiking somewhere down in the South Downs that you weren't familiar with, and you have the map and you're looking around you and you're going, I'm not sure which direction to go in, at least, as Alex said, that lets you point it in the right direction so you can see which way you should be walking. So I've actually been known to pull my compass out when I'm driving somewhere in my car to see whether I had to turn left or right somewhere. So, you know, don't knock these things. They can actually have some real world applications as well. So if we go on to the one other feature that we haven't discussed on the maps yet, and that is contours. So these are the browny orange lines that you'll find all over on the map, and you can see loads of them when we were looking at Leith Hill. And so we decided to pick on another area that's familiar, I think, to most people who live around here, and that's Denby's Vineyard. So here you can see Denby's Vineyard, which is, you know, beautiful in the sunshine, not under the snow that we have in the moment. So if we look at the map on this side, what you can see is here is the railway line. Dorking is down this side, passing through to London, just so you can orient everyone. And there is the main building with the car park that we use in front of it. So to describe what contour lines are, they are like horizontal slices through the earth. And each of these lines will tell you how many meters elevation you are above sea level. So, for example, you can see over here, this line that's drawn along says 50. This line over here will be 55. They are 5 meters above. And there we have 60. So this indicates, as they're very far apart from one another, which is actually this part of the vineyard, which is very, very shallow gradient that you get around there. This is saying that you have to travel quite a long distance before you climb 5 or 10 meters of elevation. By comparison, if we have a look a bit further up the vineyard, so we're starting to come to the North Downs over this part, you'll see that the contour lines are much, much closer together. So what that means is that you don't have to travel very far forward before you travel up your 5 meters. What that means is that this is very steep, and you'll probably all have experienced this if you've tried to head straight up. There is a little way that you can duck around the edge of this forest over here. It's very, very steep to get up on that. I think one other thing to sort of note around contour lines, which is quite helpful if you are looking at a map and you don't know which way is up or down on it, is, for example, if I have a look here at the 125 meters above sea level, if you read that text the right way, so you're not reading it upside down, the top of the numbers are pointing up the hill and the bottom of the numbers are pointing down the hill. So this is lower and this is higher. So that's just a little tip to know. If you didn't have the numbers on here and you didn't know where you were, you'd be wondering about whether this was the top or this was the top. That's a very sort of easy trick to be able to read it. Is there anything you think would be useful to add to that, Alex?
No, I think you covered that pretty well. I think essentially anyone who's watching this, if you have got any questions, either pop them in the comments. Certainly Tracey and I were quite happy to do an extension of this if we want to go into a bit more depth or learn a lot more about maps. We could talk for hours if we wanted to, but we know that the key thing is keeping this nice and short. So yeah, so if you do have any questions, we will get back to you. Send them to Eleanor and we'll answer them as best as we can. But I think that's probably about it.
That's excellent, guys. And we've had some lovely comments. This is really useful. This is really good. Thank you. Catherine's asked if we can share the information about the custom maps in the chat at the end. So maybe if one of you ping that over to me, or I don't know if you, it's the first time we're doing this, so it's a bit of a voyage of discovery. Do you have access to the chat as well, Alex and Tracey? Just maybe you could pop that in there if you have.
Possibly.
Yeah, we do. I'm just thinking that this is probably we finished, the chat may close down. So what we can do is we can drop in the link to that both on the Spawn and on the Facebook page as well, because then it'll be there for you to go and have a look tomorrow or the next day.
Yeah,
but Alex, as Alex said, is that if there's anything in particular you'd like to know more about, we can do sort of more sessions concentrating on any particular things, and then one day when we can all get back together outside, little field trip, I think, is probably in order.
Yes.
Oh, we can't wait for that, can we? We absolutely can't wait for that. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us. Just got one thing to add from Catherine. She says the difference between the green lines and the orange are that the green ones are legal right of way. Is that right?
Yeah, the illegal rights of way, whereas the orange are permissive. They're owned by the landowners and can be controlled.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, well, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Tracey and Alex. That is absolutely brilliant. You've done a great job of helping us to launch our Skills Alive in 30 series. We've actually wrapped that up in 22 minutes. That's pretty good, isn't it? So obviously, if there's anybody else that you know might be interested in learning a little bit more about OS maps, this has been recorded, so you can point them in the direction of this. I think it will just appear on Facebook. I don't know. Who knows? Or if there's anything in particular that anybody wants to learn about, we've got a whole load of things coming up over the next few weeks, which we will we'll sort of post the schedule on Facebook so that you know what's coming up. But if there's anything, any skills in particular that you'd really like to know about, related obviously to outdoors and getting active, and to, you know, just help us all feel more confident, feel more independent in terms of planning, being outside and being active and not relying on other people, and just feeling that independence and that confidence, then do just email me, eleanor@girlsalive.org.uk, or ping me a WhatsApp or whatever, and we'll hopefully get someone who's got the skills and pop it on the list. All right, well, thanks for joining us, ladies. See you all soon.
Bye.